Hey guys, remember this is season 1, episode 4 of The Pool, and I was definitely looking forward to this episode. I think the show has been on a roll in terms of episodes and just my enjoyment of it. I really have been enjoying. Now, this episode was the first episode that was just great. It wasn't amazing, it was great, but that's fine. Not every episode of the show is going to be absolutely incredible. And unlike the first 3 episodes, I don't have a ton to say about this episode because this was a pretty straightforward episode. There was stuff going on, but it was pretty straightforward. I don't have a ton to say, so this review shouldn't be too long. But let's just get into this episode because I do have stuff to say, just not as much as I did with the first 3. But I do think they portrayed the idea of racism, the idea of people getting picked on and just what the family's gone through very well. And let's just get into this episode. So this can be one of those episodes where I'm going to talk about each individual plot because they don't really coincide with each other till the ending. So we start off, we see back in the 80s, Rebecca and Jack are struggling to keep cool after their AC break. So Jack suggests a fun, relaxing day at the pool. Rebecca wanted to see a movie, but Jack wants to see wants to stay at the pool. And a reluctant Rebecca agrees. They head off, even though Rebecca's worried that Jack is going to drink. And Jack told her, "Look, I made that promise to you. I'm going to keep that promise, and I'm going to make sure I don't drink." And luckily, he does seem to keep that promise, which I like seeing. So basically, they head off, and at first it's like full of fun and games, everything's fine, everything. Jack is racing around to find available chairs, and I liked how Jack is just trying to make everything fun. It just shows how good of a dad he is. But soon Rebecca is no longer relaxed as she makes sure each of her kids are lathered up in sunscreen and sticking close by. You can tell that she's very concerned about that. And this then lasts 5 minutes. Kate heads off to talk to some classmates, which Rebecca's concerned because Kate's wearing a very, a small bathing suit, and we know that Kate was still chubby then, and Rebecca's worried that she's going to be picked on because of it. But Rebecca's very worried about it, and she's fearing cruel kids, so her nightmare comes true when Kate is actually handed a note from one of the girls saying they don't want to play with her anymore, and this obviously really pisses Rebecca and Jack off, but it also pisses her off in terms of Jack. She told Jack specifically, look, she should have worn a shirt, that's what she should have done, and you can see Rebecca's kind of upset about that. So Jack races around the pool, still in search of chairs. Randall sneaks off, leaving Kevin in the pool by himself, and a frantic Rebecca and Jack search for Randall. Rebecca finds him playing with a black family. At first, the tension is slightly high as the mother is very passive towards Rebecca, which, like I said, that is a very realistic portrayal of how things were back then. There were very few interracial families at this point. I mean, there were, and Rebecca gets defensive about her son, she storms off, and she realizes that this was the reason that Randall wanted to come to this pool and not the other one, because Randall said specifically he wanted to come to this pool, and she thinks that's why, because he wanted a more traditional type of upbringing, and the woman offers her tips on how to properly cut Randall's hair to avoid razor burn, and again, she's very assertive about it. You can understand why, though. Again, like I said, it was very uncommon for there to be, a white family raising a black child. It just didn't really happen back then, so I thought that was actually very well portrayed, the way they did that, and you can see Rebecca, she really does care about Randall, but at the same time, she understands why Randall wants to be with this mother. Randall didn't really have a real mother. He's never met his real mother. He never will meet his real mother. So I thought it was a very well done scene. I really did like the way that was done. Then we get to Kevin, who's still in the pool with no one watching. Rebecca and Jack deal with their own children. They find the cruel note given to Kate. Randall scribbling some numbers in a notebook, and as usual, Kevin feels very much outnumbered. He swims too far into the deep end. He almost drowns, and he freaks out on his parents, saying that they don't care about him. And I thought this was a pretty good scene, the way this was done, saying that, they didn't care if he was going to die or anything. And Jack makes it right, though, reassuring him that they do love him. So I thought that was overall a good scene, the way that was done. I did kind of feel bad for Kevin in that regard because, yeah, they kind of were abandoning him, and they kind of weren't really paying attention to him. So Rebecca heads over to the black family, asks the woman for the name of a good barber, and I like the way that they actually bonded over this. The woman's actually kind. She starts to write down, and she offers Rebecca tips on how to care for Randall's skin. I thought it was a really nice scene. They took what could have been a really cliche stereotypical black woman in the 80s, and they made her actually human. And that's something that This Is Us just does so well. Every character comes off as very layered and very human, and they've done that very well here. So Rebecca seemingly is very grateful. She suggests they make a play date soon. The woman gladly accepts the invitation. I kind of want to see this woman again. I think that definitely this woman seems like she knows what she's talking about, and she can really help Rebecca. Rebecca, while she does know how to raise children, she doesn't exactly know how to raise a black child. And I like that this woman in the end actually ended up helping her rather than just ridiculing her. I thought overall it was really well done. So then we get to the end of the episode. Jack ends up cheering, well, for this plot at least, Jack ends up cheering Kate up by giving her his favorite t-shirt, telling her story about how it's magic and how it's lucky and everything. So it seems like they actually did make everything right. We had the episode with them happy together on the beach, and I thought overall their plot was very interesting. It went some really good directions, and it wasn't too crazy, but I liked overall the way it did deal with the idea of racism. You know, we knew it was something that was going to come up, and I like seeing that, and I like seeing the way that they were struggling to take care of him, but unlike the other episodes, just like the other episodes, they did in fact succeed, and that's something I do like about This Is Us, is that they always do succeed. It's always a very hopeful show, and this episode continues that hopeful tone that the rest of the show has had, and I think they did that really well in this one, just like they have, you know, with the other episodes. So that's really everything that happens in Jack and Rebecca's plot. Now we talked about them, let's go into Kate's and Kevin's, because of course their stuff always coincides. Kate in this episode, they're out eating a healthy lunch when Toby runs into his ex-wife, Josie, and Kate at first thinks that he's joking around because Josie, unlike Kate, is a very attractive and very thin, which Kate is very surprised about. You know, she thought that Toby had someone that was just as, just as heavy as her, and she's surprised that this woman is very skinny. And I like the way this really shows Kate's insecurities. I mean, we've known that Kate's insecure this entire show, but this episode especially, you can really tell that Kate is very jealous of this woman, and this information sends Kate into a downward spiral. She ends up cyber stalking Josie, even taking a step further and goes into the shop that Josie owns, and when Josie asks if she's there about the job opening, Kate finds herself on a job interview, which she does eventually get. And Toby, I like that he did get mad at her about this, because Kate was completely overstepping her boundaries here. I mean, she was going way overboard with this woman, treating her like, she's the best thing in the world, and I thought it was I really was disappointed with Kate, honestly. I like Kate's character up till now, but I did find Kate to be going way overboard in this episode. I mean, the fact that she was doing all this stuff, and I like that Toby did get mad with her. He tells her, look, I'm not just going to be the nice guy anymore, and Kate, says, oh, I have issues and everything, but Toby isn't having it. He explained that the reason he got divorced is because Josie was cruel to him, and she cheated and lied throughout the marriage. He explains that after the divorce, he gained almost 100 pounds and had suicidal thoughts, which is a very realistic way to gain weight. I mean, one of the biggest causes of gaining weight is depression, and that would make sense why Toby has this weight. I've kind of always had the sense that Toby hasn't been this fat. He's just kind of made himself this fat, and the reason that he's turned this fat is because of Josie. Because they went through a very bad divorce, and because of that, this is what's caused him to gain so much weight, and I thought this was a really well done scene. He wants Kate to know that everyone has issues, including him. She apologizes, says that her issues won't just go away overnight, and Toby says neither will his. He's not acting like his will, and I really did love the way that was done. She agrees that she won't take the job, and I like the way they did solve this overall. I thought this was a good plot. I thought that Kate was a little bit annoying here, but I understood why. I mean, obviously, this is someone she cares about. She feels like she has a really good future with Toby, and she doesn't want to mess it up. I understand that, and I thought overall this was really well done. I thought they did a really good job with that arc, and I do really like where that is headed. And I like that, just like Jack and Rebecca, Kate and Toby don't end up breaking up over this. They can solve things, and I just think it's very realistic the way the show does that. They might have little fights here and there, but nothing can really break them apart, and I really do love that. I think, I've said it since first episode, Toby is the perfect guy for Kate, and he's going to be the thing that shows her that she can have hope, and I really did like seeing that. And I like seeing that Toby actually probably had a more shittier life than Kate, we definitely see. So now we're going to go to Kevin. Kevin ends up landing in New York. He calls Randall to let him know that he's on the East Coast and that his work is going to be taken seriously. I love the scene where we see that Randall's kids are a huge fan of the Manny, and he literally does an impression of Manny right next to this girl, but then he's like, no, it's going to be more serious work. You can tell that the girl in general isn't really taking taking him seriously. He heads to his first Broadway audition, and Kevin really in this episode, he starts to realize that this isn't going to be as easy as he thought, which is true. I mean, theater acting is really different compared to TV movie acting because you're on a script, it's filmed, you can say it many times, you can do many takes, but Broadway, there's only one take. I mean, yes, there's obviously rehearsals, but there's only one take, there's only one time everything happens, and everything happens just live right then and there for the audience to see. So it's a very different experience than what's going on with TV movie. You can definitely tell this is something that Kevin isn't really used to. So he heads to his Broadway audition, which he shows up late to. He starts by telling the director and playwright that he's just not another LA movie star wanting to break into the business. He wants them to take him seriously, except that the audition ends up going horribly wrong, and I mean horribly wrong. The actress he's paired up with, Olivia, is exhausted, doesn't even want to let him audition, we see. I mean, he really it's not going well at all. I really did feel bad for Kevin here because he was trying to get the words out, but Olivia's just not into it. I did really like the scene with Olivia, though, because after the audition, he runs into Olivia on the street. She asks him to get a drink at the bar. She suggests as a friend that he actually move back to LA and basically tells him, look, this isn't going to work. You don't know what you're getting yourself into. You get the sense that Olivia's been working for a while and she's very much exhausted of what she's doing. Because, yeah, it is very long hours. She wouldn't want to see him fail. However, after she goes through his whole speech, she gets a text that Kevin got the part and she storms out of the bar because what she said was irrelevant. So I like that Kevin did get the part, but I did like some of the stuff she said. She says, look, you're in over your head. You don't know what you're talking about. The big question is, does Kevin really realize what he's getting into? Because this kind of made me worried that maybe this won't go well for Kevin. I mean, even though he did get the part, I don't really know if this is really what Kevin should be doing. He thinks he should be, but we'll have to see where this is going to go. I really did like the stuff with Kevin in this episode. I thought they did a really good job with it overall. You can see that Kevin, he's very confident about what he's doing. He doesn't exactly know what he's getting himself into, but overall, I really did like both Kevin and Kate's plot. I thought they did a pretty good job with it. Kevin being the plot that I liked more than Kate's. I thought Kate was good, but Kevin was good too. I liked what they did with him overall. I'm just worried that he might not get this part. I mean, she said he's in over his head. He honestly might be, and the question is, can he really do better with the Manny? We'll have to see when the next episode comes. And finally, we're going to talk about Randall's plot, which does in fact coincide with Kevin's plot, not just from that first scene, but by the end of the episode. We see that Randall's kids seem to be adjusting well to the news that William is their grandfather. And let me just say that Randall, in my opinion, had the best stuff in this episode. I loved the subject we dealt with Randall and William. One morning, William heads out for a walk in the neighborhood when he's stopped by a security officer. Randall heads out to find out what's up, because obviously Randall's very concerned about William 24/7, knowing that he is dying and he wants to be near him. The officer explains that someone called him about a person littering in the area, and he apologizes when Randall explains that William's staying with him, and the couple who called security apologizes too. So obviously, you can understand why. I mean, William in general, he kind of looks like a drug addict. He really does. And later on at a clothing shop, Randall confronts William about the incident. He explains that he chose to ignore racism around him and just let things go. He's not just going to let racism get to him, and perhaps William has to do the same. Because William, you can tell, he looks at every little thing and he takes it as racist. Randall, he's learned to avoid that. He's kind of been through that all his life. I mean, think of the whole situation that happened with that woman. He's been through this kind of stuff. I mean, even Kevin was I wouldn't say Kevin was racist, but Kevin did in fact treat him like he was black, and later that night, we see Randall just can't let the feelings go. His daughter plays Snow White in the school play. He notices the irony of a black child playing Snow White, and he tries to ignore the laughter in the audience because it is starting to get to him. And I like that even though Randall said, look, I try not to let it get to me, it does in fact kind of get to him. And I thought it was interesting to see. He then has another chat with William, and he explains how even though he grew up in an all-white family, that doesn't mean that he didn't suffer, because he did in fact. And he tells William about the notebook that he kept as a child, and that he would mark down the book every time he met another black person while growing up. He adds that he always wondered if any of the black men he met were his father, because, of course, he didn't know his father. He didn't know William then, and William then apologized for everything, tells Randall he's a good man. Just a really well-done scene. I like this conflict that they had. I think it really did coincide pretty well with Jack and Rebecca's stuff. They like to do that on the show. They like to coincide with what's going on, and I think overall, they handle that really well here, definitely, because obviously Randall has been through stuff. He has been ridiculed for his skin and everything, and especially for his upbringing. I mean, it's got to be hard when you're in an all-white family and you're the only black person. I obviously can't relate to that, but I think that definitely they showed that very well here, and I really did like the way that that was done. I mean, it showed that while Randall, he's not really letting it get to me, seems to have a good life, he has been through a lot, and you definitely do see that, and I thought they showed that pretty well here, just showing that Randall, has he had the best life? No, he definitely has been ridiculed in his life, and I think overall they showed that pretty well. So Randall and William are sharing. The doorbell rings. He gets up to answer the door. Randall passes a photo of his family with a woman from the pool, which I thought was cool the way we saw that. Definitely gave me the sense that we're going to see this woman again. I mean, the fact that they have that photo. So at the door is Kevin. His nieces are thrilled. Kevin says he wants to crash with Randall. Both Beth and Randall reluctantly agree. And I like seeing this. I like that Kevin's going to interact with Randall. We know these two don't have the greatest relation. We know they didn't really talk much, but I like that Kevin is now stopping by. Randall introduces William to Kevin, his biological father. William's thrilled. He's also pumped that the Manny is Randall's brother. We see he's a huge fan of it. But Kevin definitely, there's a lot for them to still deal with. We'll have to see where that's going to go. But that is really all that happens in the episode in terms of Randall's plot. I thought overall this was the strongest of the three. I thought Kevin's was good, Kate was good, but this really was very strong. Just telling the story of, you know, how a person deals with racism. Two different men, one who's very much affected by racism in every single way, and one who tries to avoid it but still gets subsequently affected by it. I thought overall it was a very compelling story. I thought they handled it really well, and I really did like what they did with that overall. So overall, guys, not a ton to say about this episode. I really did like this episode overall. I thought there was some really great stuff going on here. Like I said, I think the idea of racism and bullying and obesity, those are things that were portrayed very well in this episode. My biggest question is, are we going to see this woman again? Because I really did like this woman. I like seeing her story. I liked that in the end she was a friend to Jack and Rebecca, because I think she probably thought that they were just, you know, clueless white parents who didn't know how to raise a family, when in fact they do want to raise Randall on their own, but it's tough, obviously, because it's hard to raise someone who is adopted without raising the two children that are actually yours, and that's something that the show is getting very, very well. It's not getting overly preachy. It's not getting, oh, you must care about black people for these reasons. No, they're doing it really well, and I like the way that that's done. I like the show isn't shoving it down our throats. It's there, but it's not shoving it down your throats, and I think they're handling it really well, and especially in this episode, they handled it really well. Definitely like what they did with that. So I definitely thought that was well done. It looks like next week we're actually going to find out how Jack and Rebecca met, so that's going to be really interesting. I mean, I never really thought about it, but again, this show does a really good job with talking to you about things you didn't really think about, but are just as important. I think they are going to do that pretty well next week. I'm looking forward to seeing that story of how those two actually met before, you know, Kevin, Kate, and Randall came along. But let's talk about Randall and Kevin. Now that Kevin's in the house, I think there's going to be some tension between these two. There's a lot to unpack for Kevin. I mean, Kevin doesn't know why William's there or how William got there or the story of everything. And it looks like next week William could be on the verge of dying. I honestly could see William dying pretty soon, but I don't really know. He's a main character right now. I don't want to lose Ron Cephas-Jones. He's died on too many shows. He died on Mr. Robot. I want to see him live on this show. He's a very good actor, and I really hope that he does live, because I like what they've been doing with him so far, but we'll have to see. There's only so far you can go with a character who's dying, so I don't really know what they're going to do with him. But it looks like something bad's going to happen to him next week. We'll have to see. Let's talk about Kevin, because I think while Kevin did get that role, the thing that Olivia said is something to really take, it isn't something to just completely forget about. It is, in fact, something that you should take with a grain of salt. I think definitely she's not wrong when she's saying, look, you're in over your head. I think Kevin thinks this is going to go really, really well, and I think while it is already, I think this is going to be a much different process than if it would be for a movie or a TV show. What I like about Kevin is that he's very confident. He's very confident. He seems like, oh, I got this down. I know what I'm doing. You don't need to worry about me. I know what this is like. When in reality, I don't really think he does. I think he wants to think he knows what this is like, but in reality, he doesn't. And I think that's what's going to be interesting about this is, does Kevin really know what he's doing? Is he really in over his head? I think that overall is going to be very interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing really where that's all going to go, because I don't really know how this is going to go for Kevin. I'm hoping it goes well, but I don't really know. We'll have to see. As far as Kate and Toby, I liked what we got with them here. I'm hoping that Toby did give Kate that confidence that she needs. I've said it before, that Toby is the thing that does give her the confidence and the thing that really does help her. So I'm hoping that he was able to give her the confidence that she needed. I thought overall that was a pretty good plot. And I like that she did, in fact, decide not to take that job. I mean, obviously, it did upset Toby. Josie was working there. She was really overstepping her boundaries. And I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen with that. I thought the way they handled all the racism stuff with William and Randall, I really did like. I thought that was really well done. So I'm looking forward to seeing the way that is. Overall, guys, like I said, not a ton to say about this episode. I thought overall this was a pretty good episode, a pretty great episode. I really did enjoy it. I thought it handled an issue like racism really, really well, and I thought they did it pretty well in this episode, especially, with so many shows talking about it. I think the show handled it pretty well and really did make it fresh. But that's it for my review. Hope you guys enjoyed the most. Guys thought of this episode. Love to hear your thoughts on it. And I will see you guys in my next video, which will be for Arrow. I know you guys have been looking forward to that. And I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.